Apologies for the messy hair and the messy desk in this video. So I wanted to do something that's a little bit different from my usual 3D modeling and material creation tutorials in Blender on this channel. Instead, I wanted to go through 2 books about Blender on how to learn 3D modeling as well as material creation. Now, do I think that learning 3D modeling through books is the best way on how to learn? Absolutely not. I think that visually learning, either through videos or through a real-life class, is the best way on how to learn 3D modeling. But that doesn't say that you cannot learn anything through these books. These 2 books are the Blender CG illustration and techniques, and the second book is the Blender 3D CG modeling master. Now, as you can see, they are in Japanese. And if you understand Japanese, then this book is going to be a breeze, but it doesn't mean you can't pick up a thing or two from these books. So I'm not going to go through every single page, I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm just going to skim through to show you guys exactly what these books can offer. So basically the purpose of this video is to show you guys that there are a lot of things that you can learn that you might have not known from these 2 books, and maybe it might make you guys consider on checking out your nearest bookstore to check out if they have any books related to 3D modeling, because there's always something that you can learn from everything. Without further ado, let's begin. This is a new microphone I am using, so I might sound a little bit different, but for the first book, we'll be looking at the Blender 3D Illustration Techniques book. This is posted in 2016, and it is basically your general running through every single feature and function in Blender. I find that the books about Blender in Japan tend to be a little bit more helpful than the ones that I find here in America or in Hawaii specifically. We're gonna move these plants. But as you can see, everything seems to be in either a low poly or a very cute art style when teaching you how to 3D model in Blender. So for example, in the first module of in chapter 2, it teaches you how to create a simple cup. Pretty simple in Blender, right? And it goes through exactly how to go about it by creating the basic mesh and then following up with the solidify modifier to give it that thickness that you can see right over here compared to your cup when you first make the general base of it. It also teaches you how to separate the object into 2 different materials and how to section each part of that material. For example, in this very simple Blender topology, you can see that he selects the faces that he wants this green part to be on the cup, and he adds it as its own material right over here. And for those who don't understand Japanese, there are 2 ways on how to go about this. The first and simplest way is to go through each image, as a lot of the American books that I can find don't really have this much imagery into it. And the second option is to use your camera, scan over the page, and you can translate it. Now that one might be a little bit too tedious, as you have to do it for every single page or every single section that you want, but I feel like these books are the best one to learn off of, especially when you're a beginner. This column is especially good because it teaches you how to create an object just using simple topology and meshes already. And what's good about this book is it doesn't really give you every single bitty step by step, but enough steps that you can understand as quick as possible, as well as jumping straight to the point on how to do certain things. For example, it would be hard to model a dolphin, let's say in this picture, each little fin perfectly on each side. So the easiest way, obviously, in how to go about it is to model half of it and then to perform a mirror modifier in order to reflect it on both sides. And there's so many things you can learn in this book. It doesn't go too much into it so that it becomes completely advanced and hard to pick up, but it teaches you the basic steps on how to do this or that, how to make this look like this and how to make this look like that. For example, in order to make grass, or let's say weeds or clovers in a pot, how would you go about it? Well, it teaches you exactly how to do that through the particle system, and it shows you the different weight intensities in order to determine where and how much to put these particles, and these particles being that object of that grass. This book is incredible because it goes through so many tools that you can use in order to create simple things. A couch might be something that might be a little bit confusing and intimidating to go about as a beginner, but blocking out the simple shape to then beveling the edges or just using a subsurface modifier will help get that shape nicely. Let's real quickly go through another thing right over here that the book shows you. In the 7th module of chapter 11, you have 2 walls right over here, one consisting of a window. But how do you go about that? Obviously, you can model it straight in, or you can use a texture if you want. It is the cheating way, or how video games used to do this back then. This method is obviously a little bit outdated, but it is still something you can do if you want to go about it in the most simplest way possible. Because let's say this is going into a video game, for example, but you don't want to use that much memory on the asset. You can simply just take the plane, the area that you want it, by creating some cuts right over here, and then you can select this face, make it its own material, and then you can add the image texture right over there by unwrapping it or just by generating it flatly. Overall, I think this is a really great application or great book for beginners to learn on how to approach Blender and 3D modeling in general. And do keep in mind, I will include the links to these books in the link below. However, like I said again, these books are a little bit outdated to today's standards, but it doesn't mean you can't learn a thing or two. The next book, of course, is 3D Modeling Master, followed up by a selection of other types of books that is by the same publisher. Rather than the general gist of how to go through different things, this is more so a step-by-step process on how to create exact shapes. For example, how to connect a handle to the cup without creating any things like n-gons or tries. Or when it comes to creating the top of a screw, how do you go about having the Phillips head? Well, simple. The Phillips head is obviously a cross. In your development, or sorry, in your topology, you would select these individual faces right over here. You can select multiple at a time with the C key, by the way. And then you could just drag it down with extrude, and then you have your Phillips head right over here. And of course, the moped, and how to start off it by one simple block and simply extruding it and using a mirror modifier over the course. And something I love that this book does is eventually you will be able to use your previous creations, such as how it teaches you how to model a tire from a previous module in the book, and use it onto your moped, of course. You can really pick up a lot of tips and tricks from these books, and I feel like especially with the ones in Japan, they do it so much better than what I've seen translated, or not translated, but rather in English. At least from the ones I've seen, they tend to give you a few images here and there, and in text only giving you a summary of how to go about it, but not necessarily telling you how to do it or where to find this option and why you should go about it this way rather than this way. This book tells you all of that though. I'm specifying for the 3D books I've seen when it takes place in Blender. So like I said, this was just going to be a very short review quote unquote, more so just me skimming through it and what these books have to offer. Again, the point of the video was to help you guys maybe reconsider that if you guys stop by a bookstore to try to check out what they have to offer. You can definitely learn a lot of things or two, and there are of course more advanced books, not just beginner based. Unfortunately, I'm not in Japan at the moment, so I can't pick those up just yet. I did run into those a long time ago, and with the addition of Blender 2.8 from years ago, completely changing up how you go about 3D modeling in the software, there is definitely a lot to offer now. But let me know what you guys think about in the comment section below for these two books, as well as maybe other books that you guys recommend. I will definitely buy them and check them out, and if it's worth a review, I will definitely go ahead and review them. And if you guys thought this video was at least a little bit interesting, give this video a like so that more people can find this video in their recommendations. And consider subscribing if you're interested. I create a lot of 3D modeling tutorials, but mostly material creation in Blender. At the time of this video, I do have a new course coming up very soon, so if you're new to Blender, feel free to stick around for that. But with all that said, thank you guys very much for watching. My name is Joshua via 2EasyCG, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.